The enormous black ship descended through Earth's blue sky like a falling mountain made of metal and darkness. People in cities across the world stopped what they were doing and looked up in wonder and fear. The vessel was larger than anything humans had ever built, stretching for miles in every direction, blocking out the sun wherever it passed. Inside the United Nations building in New York, President James Mitchell stood at the podium facing delegates from every nation on Earth. The emergency session had been called just hours ago when the alien ship first appeared on radar. General Robert Hayes, a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes, stood beside him. Next to Hayes was Catherine Wells, the defense minister, her face calm but her hands trembling slightly as she held her tablet. The air in the great hall felt heavy and strange. Everyone could feel something was about to change forever. Some delegates whispered prayers in their native languages. Others sat in complete silence, staring at the empty space in the center of the room where they had been told the alien would appear. Then it happened. The air began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Slowly, a figure materialized out of nothing. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The being looked like it was made of living crystal, its body reflecting the lights in the room and casting rainbow patterns across the walls and ceiling. It stood 8 feet tall and seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The creature spoke, but its mouth did not move. Instead, its voice appeared directly inside everyone's mind, speaking in perfect English to the Americans, perfect French to the French delegates, perfect Chinese to the Chinese representatives. Every person heard it in their own language, clear and cold. "Primitive beings of the third world from your star," the alien said, its mental voice echoing strangely in their heads. "I am Ambassador Thane of the Hegemony. The Galactic Council has studied your planet. We have made our decision." President Mitchell stepped forward, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We are honored by your visit and hope we can establish peaceful relations between our peoples." The crystal being's form flickered, and somehow everyone in the room could sense its amusement, like a parent watching a child try to negotiate bedtime. "There will be no relations. There will be no negotiation. There will only be compliance." The hall fell completely silent. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop humming. "Your species will provide 70% of your population for work assignments in our mining colonies throughout the galaxy," Thane continued, his mental voice as casual as someone ordering coffee. "The remaining 30% will stay on this world to maintain basic resource collection. You will begin loading the first transport ships immediately." Shocked gasps and angry shouts erupted from the delegates. The Japanese representative stood up so quickly his chair fell over. The German delegate started shouting in her native tongue. President Mitchell raised his hand for silence, but it took several minutes for the noise to die down. "Ambassador," Mitchell said carefully, "surely we can discuss this. Humanity has much to offer through trade, through cooperation. We have art, music, science, culture. We can be partners, not slaves." The crystal alien's form pulsed brighter for a moment. "Your primitive arts are of no interest. Your science is thousands of years behind ours. Your culture is irrelevant. You exist now only to serve a purpose in our galactic operations." General Hayes stepped forward, his military training keeping his voice level despite the rage burning in his eyes. "And what if we refuse?" For the first time, Thane moved, turning his crystalline head toward the general. When he did, every person in the room felt a chill that seemed to freeze their blood. It was not just cold, but the complete absence of warmth, of hope, of life itself. 43 other species have asked that same question," Thane replied. "Their worlds now provide excellent mining operations without the complications of living populations getting in the way." The meaning was clear. 43 entire species had been wiped out completely. Catherine Wells found her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "How long do we have to decide?" "You have 72 of your rotational periods," Thane said. "When your sun has risen and set 72 times, the first transport ships will arrive. Have your people ready, or we will clear this world of all biological interference and take what we need from the empty rock that remains." The silence that followed was deafening. Every delegate in the room was thinking the same thing. This was not a negotiation. This was not even a threat. This was simply a statement of fact, delivered with the same emotion someone might use to describe the weather. President Mitchell looked around the room at the faces of world leaders who had spent their entire careers dealing with complex international problems. Every face showed the same expression. They were not equipped for this. No human was. "We will need time to discuss this among our people," Mitchell said finally. Thane's form began to shimmer again, preparing to disappear. "Time is what you have been given. 72 rotations. Use them wisely, or do not use them at all. The outcome will be the same. As the alien ambassador faded from view like morning mist, President Mitchell turned to his advisors. General Hayes was already reaching for his secure communication device. Defense Minister Wells was typing rapidly on her tablet, sending encrypted messages to military leaders around the world. Activate Protocol 7, Mitchell said quietly, but every person in the room heard him clearly. Remove all restrictions immediately. As delegates began filing out of the hall in stunned silence, none of them noticed the small smile that crossed General Hayes's weathered face. The aliens had made their first mistake. They had given humanity time to prepare. More importantly, they had shown their complete arrogance by assuming humans would simply surrender. They were about to learn that assumptions could be very dangerous things. High Admiral Vex stood on the command deck of his massive warship, looking down at the holographic display that showed the primitive planet called Earth. The blue and green world spun slowly in the projection, looking peaceful and defenseless. Around him, his tactical officers worked at their stations, their various alien forms hunched over glowing panels. Report, Vex commanded, his forearms crossed behind his back. Like most of his species, he resembled a giant insect, with compound eyes that could see in multiple spectrums of light. Lieutenant Cray, his head tactical officer, manipulated the hologram to zoom in on Earth's surface. The scan is complete, Admiral. These humans are even more primitive than we initially thought. Their most powerful explosive devices barely register 300 kilotons of destructive force. Our smallest ship weapons are 10 times more powerful. Another officer, Commander Zix, added her own analysis. Their fastest spacecraft require chemical combustion just to escape their planet's gravity. It takes them months to travel to their own moon. They are completely helpless beyond their atmosphere. Vex nodded with satisfaction. This would be easier than expected. What about their military organization? Completely fragmented, Lieutenant Cray replied, bringing up new images. They have over 200 separate nations, many of which appear to be in conflict with each other. We detected active warfare in 7 different regions. They cannot even cooperate among their own species. The Admiral walked closer to the holographic Earth, studying the continents. Perfect. Divided prey is easy prey. What is their classification? Class 2 emerging species, Commander Zix announced. Threat level, negligible. Recommended approach, standard intimidation protocol followed by immediate harvest operations. What none of the aliens realized was that 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that their sensors could not detect, Dr. Marcus Thompson was watching them just as carefully as they were watching Earth. The underground complex was one of dozens hidden across the planet, all connected by quantum communication networks that operated faster than light itself. They are not scanning below surface level, Dr. Thompson reported into his headset. His screens showed real-time positions of every alien ship in the solar system. Their technology is impressive, but they are only looking at what's obvious. The doctor's facility was hidden so deep underground that it would take a direct nuclear strike to even reach it. Around him, technicians monitored equipment that the aliens above had no idea existed. Fusion reactors powered computers that could calculate orbital mechanics faster than the alien ships could move. On another screen, Dr. Thompson watched feeds from hidden cameras placed throughout the solar system. The aliens had missed the mining platforms disguised as asteroids. They had ignored the military installations built into the moon's far side. Most importantly, they had no idea that humanity's space program was decades ahead of what they showed the public. In a different facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Colonel Diana Price was coordinating with military leaders from around the world. The underground command center looked like something from a science fiction movie, with massive screens showing global communications and troop movements. The alien assessment is complete, she announced to the assembled officers on the video conference. Faces of generals and admirals from every major nation filled the screens around her. They think we're helpless. General Hayes appeared on the largest screen, speaking from his own secure bunker in Colorado. What's their biggest mistake? They assume we fight like they do, Colonel Price replied. Every species in their council evolved from prey animals. Creatures that survived by hiding, running away, or surrendering when caught. They literally cannot understand a species that evolved as hunters. On another screen, Admiral Susan Clark from the Naval Command Center nodded grimly. They're looking at our surface military and thinking that's all we have. They have no idea about the lunar installations or the deep space platforms. Dr. Elizabeth Stone, the military's chief psychologist, joined the conversation from her facility in Australia. I've been analyzing their communication patterns, she said. Their entire psychology is based on submission hierarchies. When a stronger force threatens them, they surrender immediately. They expect us to do the same. Which means, Colonel Price continued, they're not prepared for a species that gets more dangerous when threatened. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this possibility for decades. Not specifically for alien invasion, but for any threat that could destroy civilization. Deep underground facilities had been built and connected. Advanced weapons had been developed in secret. Most importantly, an artificial intelligence network called Atlas had been created to coordinate global defense. Atlas was not like the simple computers the aliens had detected on Earth's surface. It was a distributed system that existed in quantum processors buried miles underground across the planet. It could think faster than any biological mind and coordinate military operations across multiple star systems simultaneously. Atlas is already tracking their fleet movements, Dr. Thompson reported. We know the position of every alien ship within 10 light-years of Earth. They have no idea we can see them. The aliens continued their surface scans, completely confident in their assessment. High Admiral Vex reviewed the final reports with satisfaction. Standard procedure, he decided. We give them the 72 rotation periods as required by Council law. When they inevitably refuse to surrender, we demonstrate our power by destroying a few of their cities. They will submit immediately afterward. Lieutenant Cray looked up from his station. What if they don't submit, Admiral? Vex's compound eyes reflected the light from the holographic Earth. Then we sterilize the planet and extract the resources without biological interference. Either way, the operation concludes within one of their rotational years. What the Admiral could not know was that every word of his conversation was being recorded by human listening devices. Every tactical plan was being analyzed by Atlas. Every weakness in their fleet formation was being catalogued and studied. The aliens saw what they expected to see, a primitive, divided species with basic technology and no unified command structure. They were completely unprepared for what humanity actually was, a species of persistence predators that had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to hunt creatures bigger, stronger, and faster than themselves. The countdown had begun, and both sides were preparing. But only one side understood what was really about to happen. The 72 hours passed like a slow countdown to doom. Across Earth, people watched the skies and waited. Some prayed in churches, mosques, and temples. Others spent the time with their families, holding their children close. Many simply sat in stunned silence, unable to believe that their entire world was about to change forever. President Mitchell had not slept for 3 days. He stood in the emergency command bunker, 500 feet beneath the White House, surrounded by military advisors and world leaders connected by secure video links. The walls were lined with screens showing cities across the globe. London's Big Ben Tower stood tall against the grey sky. Tokyo's busy streets filled with people going about their daily lives. New York's skyline gleamed in the afternoon sun. General Hayes checked his watch. 30 seconds until deadline, Mr. President. The silence in the bunker was complete except for the quiet humming of computers and air circulation systems. Everyone held their breath, even though they all knew what was coming. The aliens had made their intentions perfectly clear. 10 seconds, Hayes announced quietly. Mitchell closed his eyes and thought about his own children, safe in a deep bunker in Colorado. He thought about the 12 million people in those 3 cities who had no idea their lives were about to end. Time, Hayes said. For 5 long minutes, nothing happened. Some people in the command bunker began to hope that maybe the aliens had changed their minds. Maybe they had decided that humanity was not worth the trouble. Then the sky above London exploded. The orbital bombardment beam struck with the power of a small sun focused into a single point. The ancient city simply vanished in a flash of light brighter than day. Where London had stood for nearly 2,000 years, there was now only a perfectly round crater, glowing with heat that turned sand into glass. Before anyone could fully process what they had just witnessed, Tokyo disappeared in the same terrible flash. Then New York followed, the great city erased from existence in less than a second. The Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, Central Park, 8 million people, all gone, leaving only a smoking hole in the earth. The screens in the bunker went dark one by one as the satellite feeds were cut off. The numbers began appearing on the status boards, 12,847,000 confirmed dead. The count was still climbing as rescue teams tried to reach the edges of the destruction zones. President Mitchell opened his eyes and looked around the bunker at the shocked faces of his advisors. General Hayes was staring at the blank screens, his weathered face pale. Colonel Price was typing rapidly on her keyboard, coordinating with military units around the world. Dr. Stone sat in her chair, tears running down her cheeks as she processed the psychological impact of what had just happened. "Sir," Colonel Price said, her voice steady despite the horror they had all witnessed. "Atlas is requesting authorization for Omega Protocol." Dr. Thompson looked up from his console, his face grave. "Mr. President, you need to understand what Omega Protocol means. It's total extinction warfare. Once we activate it, there's no going back. We will hunt down and kill every member of every species that attacked us. Not just their military. Everyone. Their children, their elderly, their civilians. Complete extinction." Mitchell walked to the main display screen, which now showed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking known alien positions. He thought about the children who had been playing in London's parks that morning. The families having dinner in Tokyo restaurants. The people walking through New York's busy streets. "They wanted to see what happens when you kill our children," Mitchell said, his voice carrying a coldness that made everyone in the bunker step back. "Now they're going to learn." He turned to face his military leadership. "Authorization granted. Remove all restrictions. No prisoners. No mercy. No survivors except those we specifically choose to keep alive as witnesses." The moment those words were spoken, something fundamental changed in the human species. Across the planet, in military bases and research facilities, in government buildings and command centers, every human being involved in the defense of Earth felt it. The change was immediate and absolute. Dr. Stone's monitoring equipment registered the shift instantly. "It's unprecedented," she reported, staring at her readings in amazement. "We're seeing a species-wide psychological transformation. Every human military unit is reporting the same thing. The Geneva Conventions mean nothing now. Rules of engagement are suspended. We're not fighting a war anymore, we're conducting an extermination." In military bases around the world, soldiers who had spent years training to follow strict rules of warfare suddenly found those rules erased from their minds. Pilots who had been taught to avoid civilian targets now planned strikes specifically against alien population centers. Naval commanders who had sworn to protect innocent life now prepared weapons designed to kill entire planets. The transformation was not just military. In research laboratories, scientists who had dedicated their lives to healing and discovery now focused solely on creating better ways to kill aliens. Engineers who had built bridges and hospitals redesigned their skills to destroy worlds. Even doctors and teachers felt the change, understanding that their knowledge would now serve the goal of complete alien extinction. Atlas, the artificial intelligence network that had been quietly observing everything, finally revealed its true capabilities. Hidden installations across the solar system came online simultaneously. The moon, which the aliens had dismissed as a dead rock, suddenly bristled with weapons that made their orbital platforms look like toys. On lunar base, massive doors opened in the surface that had appeared to be natural craters. Weapons emerged that could fire projectiles at 90% the speed of light. Each shot carried enough energy to destroy a planet. "Phase 1 is ready," General Hayes announced. "All systems are online. Atlas has calculated firing solutions for every alien world within 50 light-years." President Mitchell looked at the tactical display one more time. Somewhere out there, High Admiral Vex was probably celebrating his successful demonstration of power, confident that humanity would now surrender as 43 other species had done. "Execute Phase 1, Mitchell commanded. "Let's show them what happens when you hunt the hunters." The war for humanity's survival had begun, but the aliens had no idea they were no longer the predators. High Admiral Vex stood on his command deck, expecting reports of human surrender at any moment. The destruction of 3 Earth cities should have been more than enough to break their spirit. Every other species had surrendered immediately after such demonstrations. He sipped his nutrition liquid and waited for the inevitable communication begging for mercy. Instead, his communications officer looked up with confusion. "Admiral, we're receiving no surrender signals from Earth. In fact, all communications from the planet have gone completely silent." Vex frowned with his compound eyes. Perhaps they need more time to process their defeat. These primitive species often take longer to accept reality. Lieutenant Cray was monitoring the long-range sensors when something impossible appeared on his screen. "Sir, I'm detecting some kind of energy discharge from the lunar satellite. But that's just a dead rock. There shouldn't be anything there." Before Vex could respond, his tactical officer screamed. "Admiral, Nexus Prime is gone." The holographic display showed empty space where the hegemony homeworld should have been. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if it had never existed. 4 to 7 billion beings had lived on that planet just moments ago. Now there was nothing but void. That's impossible, Vex whispered, his voice trembling. Nothing can destroy a planet that completely. Nothing can move that fast. What Vex could not understand was that Colonel Price had coordinated the launch of 12 projectiles from Lunar Base, each traveling at 92% light speed. The kinetic energy of a single projectile hitting a planet was like a star exploding in concentrated form. The aliens never saw them coming because they moved faster than their sensors could detect. In his command bunker on Earth, Dr. Thompson watched his screens with cold satisfaction. Nexus Prime eliminated. Time to target, 0.03 seconds. No survivors detected. His voice was completely emotionless, as if he was reading a shopping list instead of announcing the extinction of an entire world. Target 2, Hegemony Colony Alpha, reported his assistant, Captain Michael Stone. Projectile impact in 4 to 7 seconds. The human weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. While other species built energy weapons or explosive devices, humans had learned to turn physics itself into a weapon. A small piece of metal moving at near light speed carried more destructive power than a nuclear arsenal. Admiral Susan Clark commanded the hidden fleet that emerged from the asteroid belts like ghosts materializing from darkness. Her ships had been disguised as space rocks for months, using technology reverse-engineered from captured alien scouts. The aliens had literally flown past them dozens of times without detection. "Remember London," Admiral Clark broadcast to her fleet as they surrounded an alien colony ship. "Remember New York. Remember Tokyo. They wanted to harvest our children. Now we harvest theirs." The alien colony ship contained 3 million civilians fleeing from the destroyed Nexus Prime. They were families, children, elderly beings who had never held a weapon in their lives. Under the old human rules of warfare, such a ship would have been protected. Under Omega Protocol, it was just another target. Clark's ships opened fire simultaneously. But they did not simply destroy the colony ship quickly. Instead, they used precision weapons to disable its life support systems while leaving the communications active. The 3 million aliens inside died slowly over several hours while broadcasting their death screams across all frequencies for their military forces to hear. "Psychological warfare," explained Dr. Stone from her facility in Australia as she monitored the alien communications. "We want them to know exactly what's happening to their people. Fear is as powerful as any weapon." The systematic elimination continued across the galaxy. Captain Lisa Ward's Biological Warfare Division had spent the past 72 hours creating pathogens specifically designed for each alien species. Unlike human diseases that evolved naturally, these were crafted with perfect precision to attack alien biology. The virus released on Zephyr Prime was invisible and odorless. It spread through their atmosphere in less than 6 hours. Every member of the Zephyr Collective died within 12 hours, their bodies dissolving from the inside out. The planet's communications arrays continued broadcasting their final moments to the rest of the galaxy. General Hayes coordinated the overall campaign from his deep bunker, watching as red dots disappeared from the galactic map one by one. Hegemony, extinct. Zephyr Collective, extinct. The Ascendancy, extinct. Status report, Colonel Price. 4 species eliminated in the first 6 hours, Price reported. Current alien military response, complete chaos. They're trying to recall their fleets to defend their homeworlds, but our projectiles are already in flight. Travel time to remaining targets ranges from 18 hours to 6 days. The aliens were learning that their greatest strength, the vast distances between star systems that had always protected them, was now their greatest weakness. Human weapons crossed those distances faster than their communications could warn of the attacks. Commander Helen Wright's Engineering Corps had developed perhaps the most psychologically devastating weapon of all. Instead of simply destroying planets, they cracked them open like eggs and hollowed them out, leaving perfect spherical caverns. The empty shells drifted in space as monuments to human precision, broadcasting automated messages on repeat. "This world killed our children. This world paid the price." High Admiral Vex watched in growing horror as reports came in from across the galaxy. Species that had existed for millions of years were being wiped out in hours. Entire star systems were going dark. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 10,000 years, was dissolving as its member species simply ceased to exist. "How is this possible?" he whispered, staring at the tactical display that showed only empty space where once mighty civilizations had thrived. His communications officer's voice was barely audible. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're demanding our surrender." Vex laughed bitterly. In less than 1 day, Humanity had gone from helpless prey to the galaxy's apex predator. They had not just won a war, they had rewritten the fundamental rules of warfare itself. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the first human projectile struck Nexus Prime. The Grand Council chamber on Station Unity floated in the silence of space, its massive crystalline walls reflecting the distant stars like frozen tears. The station had once been the proud center of galactic civilization, where representatives from 12 mighty species had gathered to rule over hundreds of worlds. Now it was a tomb. Admiral Patricia Cross walked through the empty corridors of the station, her boots echoing in the vast spaces that had been designed for beings much larger than humans. Behind her followed President Mitchell, General Hayes, and Dr. Stone, their faces calm and professional as they made their way to the chamber where it had all began. The council chamber itself was a magnificent sight, even in its emptiness. 12 crystalline formations rose from the floor like frozen trees, each one designed to hold a different alien species. The formations still glowed with internal light, but 11 of them were dark and lifeless, their occupants nothing but memories scattered across the void of space. Only one formation still pulsed with life. In its center, Ambassador Thane huddled in what remained of his crystalline shell. The once proud alien who had delivered humanity's death sentence now trembled like a frightened child. His crystal body, which had once reflected light in beautiful rainbows, was now dim and cracked, showing the psychological damage of witnessing the complete extinction of his allies. "You requested this meeting," Admiral Cross said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "We're here to provide closure." Thane's form flickered weakly as he tried to speak. His mental voice, which had once commanded with absolute authority, now whispered like wind through broken glass. We did not understand. We could not have known." President Mitchell stepped forward, holding a simple tablet computer. His face showed no emotion as he read from it. "Your Galactic Council issued humanity an ultimatum. Surrender 70% of our population for slave labor, or face complete annihilation. We chose a different path. We chose to annihilate you instead," General Hayes continued, consulting his own report with the same tone he might use to read a weather forecast. 11 species completely extinct. 412 billion individuals eliminated. 47 homeworlds sterilized. 3,468 colonies and installations destroyed. Total time required, 173 days. Dr. Stone activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Where once the galactic map had shown the territories of 12 proud civilizations, now vast areas of space showed only darkness. Empty systems where planets had been cracked open like nuts. Silent zones where space stations had been consumed by nanite swarms. Hollow shells of worlds that broadcast eternal warnings to any who might listen. The efficiency was remarkable, Dr. Stone noted clinically. Humanity proved capable of conducting extinction-level warfare on a galactic scale. Previous estimates had suggested such operations would require centuries. We completed them in under 6 months. Thane's crystalline form pulsed with what could only be described as agony. The Zephyr Collective had existed for 3 million years. The Ascendancy had built wonders that spanned entire star systems. The Hegemony had created art and music that could make stars weep with beauty. All of it, gone. Admiral Cross nodded calmly. Yes. Gone. Every last trace eliminated with mathematical precision. She gestured to the empty crystalline formations around them. Your council wanted to see what happened when you threatened humanity's children. Now you know. The silence that followed was deeper than the vacuum of space itself. It was the silence of entire civilizations that would never speak again. The silence of billions of voices that had been cut off in mid-sentence. The silence of a galaxy that had learned to fear a single small blue planet. Why? Thane whispered, his mental voice barely detectable. Why did you spare only us? Why leave the hegemony alive when all the others died? Admiral Cross smiled, and it was perhaps the most terrifying expression any being in the galaxy had ever witnessed. It was not cruel or angry. It was simply businesslike, the smile of a professional who had completed a job well done. Someone needs to tell the rest of the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity, she explained patiently. You're going to live a very long time, Ambassador. Long enough to spread the word to every species that might be listening. Long enough to make sure this lesson is never forgotten. President Mitchell placed his tablet on the chamber's central platform with a soft click that seemed to echo forever in the vast space. This contains humanity's first and only diplomatic statement to the galaxy. The message is simple: Earth is not your resource. Humans are not your slaves. We are not your prey. And if any species makes the same mistake your council made, we will not stop at 11 extinctions. As the human delegation prepared to leave, General Hayes turned back to the trembling alien with an almost casual afterthought. Oh, an ambassador? Your species gets to keep exactly 30% of your remaining population. The other 70% will be relocated to work camps on the mineral worlds you tried to steal from us. Consider it a learning experience about what slavery actually feels like. The chamber fell into absolute silence as the humans departed, their footsteps fading into the distance. Thane remained alone in the vast space, surrounded by the empty crystalline formations that had once held the voices of galactic civilization. The only sounds were the soft humming of life support systems and the barely audible whisper of cosmic background radiation. Outside the station, human ships moved through space with quiet confidence. They were no longer the primitive beings who had begged for mercy just months ago. They were something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that had learned to wage war not just for victory, but for the complete and total elimination of threats to their existence. Among the stars, in the vast emptiness where great civilizations had once thrived, nothing dared to hunt the hunters. The galaxy held its breath and listened to the silence, hoping never to hear the terrible sound of human ships approaching their worlds. Humanity had taken their place as the apex predators of known space, and the universe itself seemed dimmer for the knowledge of what now moved among the stars.